the ESPN app. One game left in the season. We are already here. Can you believe it? And a few teams still in control of their destiny. This includes Lamar Jackson and the Ravens, who will face the Bengals. Also, Baker Mayfield and the Browns, who are tasked with the Big Benless Steelers. So win and into the AFC wildcard round. And Ryan, I want to know, who do you think is under more pressure on Sunday? Is it Lamar or is it Baker?
100% Baker Mayfield. 100%. And listen, Lamar Jackson has been under a ton of pressure this entire year because of coming off the MVP season, people expecting him to ascend and be a different quarterback and play the game a different way. I think Greg Roman calling plays a certain way and trying to make him a pocket passer, this kind of Joe Montana, Dan Marino experiment they were doing with Lamar. So we've been at Lamar's head the entire season. But guess what? He's back to being old Lamar, being the best athlete on the field, getting his team to win football games in dominating fashion. That's not where we are with Baker Mayfield, right? We haven't necessarily settled in on what he truly is. Is he this quarterback that we saw against the Baltimore Ravens, against the Tennessee Titans, that is not only a part of a great team, but the main cog in the reason your team wins a football game? Or is he a guy that needs Kevin Stefanski to dial up the right plays, that needs his run game to be the driving force to his success, and the defense has to turn the football over? Like, who is he? What can he be? Well, guess what? He's playing against the Mason Rudolph Pittsburgh Steelers, right? We all know what happened when the Pittsburgh Steelers and Mason Rudolph walked in there, right? And so not only is it that pressure of understanding you just lost to the Jets when everything was on you, you fumbled the football 3 times, but it's like, don't blow it twice, Baker. Don't have the Big Ben Roethlisberger-less Pittsburgh Steelers come in and totally knock you out of the playoffs. Don't have that be the team that sends you home. Okay, you're better this year. Show us that you're better.
This is why I disagree with you, because you started off by saying we don't know if he is this quarterback that needs everything to be perfect around him or needs a lot of help, or we don't know if he's a quarterback that can put this team on his back. That's where you messed up off the start. We already know who Baker Mayfield is. You know who he is.
I said that toward the end.
I know who he is. Okay, well, that's the first thing I heard. You know who he is. I know who he is. He's not that guy that's just going to put the team on his back. So there's no pressure on him. The pressure's on, I can't say no. There's pressure on him, but there's a little bit of pressure on him because we all understand who he is. We fixed our expectations from him being the #1 overall pick to being the savior in Cleveland to understanding that he is a good, slightly above average quarterback in a good system. And there's no pressure on him because I think that we look at him, especially because he had that big primetime game against the Ravens. We now look at him as the franchise quarterback for that team going forward. There's not much more to gain or lose for him coming up. If they lose this game, we're going to be like, oh, they lost this game, but Baker Mayfield's still their quarterback. If they win and get to the playoffs, we're going to be like, wow, what an achievement. They ain't been in the playoffs in a century, and now they are back up in there. Congratulations, Baker Mayfield. But it's different for Lamar Jackson. And Lamar Jackson has the pressure on him from 2 ways. We know Lamar Jackson is excellent. We know Lamar Jackson is the MVP. We know Lamar Jackson is the put his team on his back type of quarterback, even if he does it differently than most quarterbacks we see. We know that. That's not the question for Lamar Jackson right now. What we haven't seen yet from Lamar Jackson, and while it is an unfair criticism, it's a playoff win. He needs to get one of those. There's pressure on him to get one of those.
Playoffs,
Baker Mayfield, I understand, but I'm just talking about pressure going forward. As the season goes forward, we're talking about who's under more pressure. It's obviously Lamar Jackson. To me, as we go into the playoffs, the pressure is on him. Okay, we can take the playoffs out of it if you were not prepared for that discussion. Are you on my side if he's under more pressure in the playoffs?
Well, they got to get to the playoffs first, Dom. We're talking about this week.
Okay, we can
this
back
week,
up.
the Cincinnati Bengals and the Cleveland Browns.
We can back up. The Ravens are going to be playing the Bengals, who have been playing better recently. And there's still more pressure on Lamar Jackson because the thing we started with, we know who Lamar Jackson is. We know who Baker Mayfield is. Lamar Jackson has all the pressure because I can explain it in one simple, I can point out one simple thing that explains it all to you. The last couple years, Dez Bryant was not in the NFL. The last 2 weeks, he caught touchdown passes from Lamar Jackson. So if you want to talk about who got pressure on him, who got to put a team on his back, got to put an entire offense on his back, It's Lamar Jackson. But we understand that Baker Mayfield doesn't have to carry that same weight. That's all I'm saying. He got his own weight. He got his own things to contend with. But he ain't carrying that team. That's that backfield. That's that scheming. That's the offensive line.
Yeah,
go ahead.
Right, but so but I think Baker Mayfield still has more questions to answer. Right, Baker Mayfield is a guy who plays the game in a different way in Lamar Jackson. The question Lamar Jackson had to answer was what he did sustainable, right? And early on in the season, he tried to get away from what he did. He tried to be something different. He tried to make that jump from being an athlete playing this position that can do things that we've never seen in this league from that spot on the field to, okay, let me be more typical. Let me be more of what they're looking for. Let me create offense in a different way than I've created it my entire life. And that's where Lamar Jackson ran into trouble. Now that he's back to being that dude, right? Now that he's back to, at one point in the Cleveland game, even though they were winning and scoring a lot of points, having more rushing yards than he had passing yards, but coming out of the bathroom or the IV room or wherever he came out of, right? And he came out of there, used his legs, got the ball to Marquise Brown down the field. But we get that about Lamar Jackson. We still don't get that about Baker Mayfield. Now, some of the criticism Lamar gets